We're being double teamed today, which is what management does. We've got two faculty members here. Professor Mike Krantz is the chair of the management department. He has been in that position since 2009. Professor Rob Easley is the assistant chair. He has been in that position since 2007. Professor Krantz's expertise is in the area of organizational behavior. Professor Easley is the person responsible for overseeing the information technology management courses and programs. So they've got a lot to talk to you about. Let's give them a big welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Turn that down a little, will you, Rob, if you can? Doesn't it sound a little loud? I think I'm the last of the 4 department chairs to speak with you. So it's good. It makes it a little easier for me. The fact that you know something about the other departments on campus, in the college, excuse me. But let me just differentiate our department, the management department, from what the other 4 do. I mean, part of my intention this afternoon is to give you a better feel for what makes us unique and what we have to offer to help you prepare for a very successful career. Accounting, finance, and marketing, the other 3 departments, they're much narrower in what they study. They have a very specific domain that they're interested in. Management is by far the broadest of the 4 departments. We study a lot of things. We teach a lot of things. One of the goals of graduating a management major is graduating someone who's incredibly well-rounded and able to contribute in all of the functional areas. So that's a little bit different. If you're really interested in the quantitative side, then you're probably going to gear quite naturally towards accounting and finance. But if the quantitative side of business does not speak to you, then management is certainly one of the things that you should consider. The theme, though, that links it all together is the last sentence here. We study 3 things in our department. We study the people that make up the organization. We study the process by which organizations get their work done. And we study information. What's the role of information in business today? Let me begin my comments this afternoon by talking a little bit about what I think you should consider when you choose a major, assuming you come into the Mendoza College of Business, and reflect a little bit on a mistake not to make, a mistake that I made when I was your age. I really believe that it's incredibly important that you choose a major based on your heart, based on what interests you, rather than what you think of as something the labor market would reward. A lot of people choose majors based on very small differences in salary. And I'll talk a little bit later about the average salaries for management majors and how that compares to accounting, finance, and marketing majors. But I'm going to argue that you should totally ignore that. As a preview, they're not that far apart. They're all within $5,000 of each other for the starting salary. But it's really important that you listen to your heart. If you come into the Mendoza College of Business and you take our sophomore year of studies where you get exposure to all of the 4 areas, it's quite likely that one of those areas is going to speak to you. And I really encourage you to open up to that and choose your major based on interests. There's a lot of evidence that suggests that people are happiest when they have work that's meaningful to them. This is becoming incredibly important in terms of motivating people at work. If you can put people in jobs that they truly enjoy, you're far more likely to have high productivity from them. And it's important that you think that way as you choose a career path. What speaks to you? What interests you? Listen, you are not permanently constrained by your undergraduate major. You can do anything you want. Just because one majors in accounting doesn't constrain you to a career in accounting. Just because you major in information technology management, that doesn't constrain you to work forever in the IT groups of organizations. That's especially true at a great university like Notre Dame. We place our graduates, even in this very tight, demanding economy. Almost everybody from the class of 2010 has a job now. And that's something. in this economy. I mean, people who major in history get jobs, people who major in English get jobs. So don't worry about it. Choose a major based on your interest and your heart and nothing else. All right, I'll step off my soapbox now and talk instead about our department and what we have to offer. We're unique also in the sense that we have 3 separate majors in our department. Accounting, finance, and marketing, the other 3 departments, they each have 1 major. We have 3. Consulting, entrepreneurship, and information technology management. Consulting is about managing the people and the processes in organizations. How do they get things done? How can we study the way that they get work done and make recommendations to make them more effective? Okay? Entrepreneurship. Do you have an idea for a small business? Are you maybe part of a family business that you might consider being an operator of and maybe growing on behalf of your family? Entrepreneurship majors study issues like that. The third is information technology management, the role of information in business. How do we develop information? How do we use it? What's the strategic role of information? Information is a basic ingredient of managerial work, and everybody needs to be familiar with what an important role it plays and how to maximize your return on information investments. I really want to stress the fact that management majors at Notre Dame get really, really good jobs. And I think it's because of something I referred to earlier. The broad nature of our major is something that the labor market rewards. Companies want well-rounded graduates, and that's what we do. People who graduate with a management major from the University of Notre Dame have a solid foundation in all the functional areas of business. We teach valuable skills in our department, and it is absolutely a set of skills that the labor market is interested in. We have a very strong placement record for our graduates, and I'll tell you a little bit later about some of the companies that hire our graduates, the types of jobs that they get, and their starting salaries. I really want to emphasize, though, that, again, you are not constrained by your undergraduate major. Consulting majors don't always take positions with the large consulting firms. Our entrepreneurial graduates, to be honest, seldom go right out and start a business. They typically go to work for a bigger organization first, and they get more skills, and then they're able to go start their own businesses. The information technology area, Professor Easley is going to talk about shortly, but the same thing is true there. Graduate schools really do appreciate our majors. We have an excellent record of placing our graduates who wish to pursue further education in some of the most elite graduate programs in America, law programs, MBA programs, and even some in PhD programs. All right, let me tell you a little bit about what happens to our graduates, because I think that's something that's of interest to all of you as you consider a potential major. You see the first bullet point here, some of the typical job titles for our consulting and entrepreneurship majors. Things like being a business analyst, a management trainee, consultant, project manager, investment banking analyst. Some even go into marketing, relationship management in the banking industry. This is an updated list of representative employers. I just pulled this morning from Career Services. These are all firms that the class of 2010 are working with now. These are management majors from the class of 2010. General Electric hired a couple of our graduates. The Walt Disney Company, PepsiCo, General Mills, Accenture, one of the big consulting companies, Deloitte, another large consulting company, AT&T, Ogilvy and Mather. The starting salaries for the class of 2010 for both consulting and entrepreneurship majors was $55,000. That's higher than accounting majors. That's higher than marketing majors. It's a little bit below finance majors. But I'm not telling you that to brag and try to induce you to major in management because of the money. But I want to dispel the myth, if you might have held it, that somehow management majors are less desired and less valued in the marketplace. They're not. We're actually up there. We're actually up there. Our students get good jobs, well-paying jobs. So what would you do if you choose to major in management? Well, no matter which of the three majors you pursue, consulting, entrepreneurship, or information technology management, you're required to complete a set of core courses. And you see these listed here. Just a brief comment on these. Management communications. You know, I don't care what you do in life. If you're not persuasive, you're not going to be very successful. You have to be able to figure out how to persuade others to see things the way that you want them to see things. This class is about developing skills of that nature. How do you write more effectively to persuade others? How do you speak more effectively to persuade others? How can you be a more active listener? It's a very hands-on course, a lot of case studies, a lot of practice, coaching, feedback. You will become a more effective communicator as a result of taking this class. Strategic Information and Technology Applications. Professor Easley is going to talk more about the information technology area shortly, but I think a very true statement is the role of information in this digital age is as important a driver of business success as anything. You have to understand the role of information and have an understanding of how to maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of the information technologies that your organization has. Innovation and design. One of the things that differentiates business today from businesses of 30 years ago, I think, is the massive rate of change that's necessary in order to survive. There's no such thing as standing still in business anymore. If you're not constantly innovating and changing, you're falling behind, because I guarantee that your competitors are moving towards becoming better at what they do. This class talks about how to be more creative thinker, how to capitalize on your ideas, and ways to be more innovative organizationally. It's one of the most popular classes that we offer. Our majors get first shot at enrolling in it, and then the open seats go like that as soon as it's opened up to the general population. Problem solving. I don't care what you do in life, you solve problems. It's a basic ingredient of being a human being. You know, we solve problems. Architects solve problems. Doctors solve problems. Lawyers solve problems. Business administrators solve problems. And this class talks about the art and science of being more effective at solving problems. How do you formulate the problem to better understand the nuances and the dynamics? What are the ingredients of effective problem-solving processes? These are the types of questions that you'll learn about in that class. Project management. Again, what are the success stories of seeing projects through to completion, getting things done on time and hopefully under budget? What types of software tools are available to help you with your software management, your project management responsibilities? These are the types of issues that will be addressed in this class. Spreadsheet decision modeling. You all know Excel. I'm sure every one of you has pretty fundamental Excel capabilities. You can work with spreadsheets. But what about all the many add-ons that are available for Excel? Are you aware of those? Do you know how those can be used more effectively in business to help you solve difficult problems? This is a great course for helping you develop your sophistication and your ability to analyze data. And I think it's something that's totally fundamental now to being an effective business administrator. So those are the core requirements. Beyond completing the core requirements, you have to take some specific courses depending upon which of our three majors you pursue. If you pursue the consulting major, you would choose three of these courses that I've got listed here: management competencies, HR issues in high-performance organizations, international management, and leadership and motivation. This set of classes addresses the human side of management. How can you be a more effective leader? How can you be a more effective team member and leader of teams? How does leading a team differ from leading individuals? The role of the international environment is something that's totally different for you, compared to people of my generation. You guys are going to graduate from one of the elite universities and a leading business school. I predict you will be a fast tracker in whatever job you take. You will have a little halo around your head where you will be perceived as a future leader of that organization. You will be expected to take an international assignment fairly quickly. in your career. I would guess within the first 10 years, maybe a lot sooner than that. It's no longer unusual for someone to be asked to lead an introduction of a product not in Boise, but in Mumbai, or in Singapore, or in Shanghai. This class, the International Management class, will help give you the tools that you need to be prepared to deal with that. And believe me, this is a huge test. This is an area where you can either establish yourself further as a fast tracker because you succeed in your first international posting, or you can be derailed and taken off the fast track and your halo will fall mercilessly to the ground. So this is something to think about, how to prepare yourself for these very important international postings. In the entrepreneurship major, these are the types of classes that we'll ask you to take. The introductory course, of course, is a survey, an overview of the various topics associated with entrepreneurship. Go to market. You've got a great idea. You're convinced that you've spotted a niche and you're ready to exploit it and make a lot of money. So the question is, now what? What the heck do I do? How can I turn my great business idea into reality? This is the class that talks about exactly that. Funding new ventures. Unless you're independently wealthy, probably just a few of you, you're going to have to come up with some money to turn your idea into reality. When should you go to private equity? When should you go venture capital route? When should you go to banks? How can you position a proposal such that you're likely to get funding? These are the types of issues that are very important for turning your ideas into workable businesses. Entrepreneurship and business planning. The business plan underlies everything in the small business environment. You're never going to get any money unless you have a great business plan. You need to be able to write an effective business plan to be a successful entrepreneur. This class is a hands-on approach towards writing a business plan. And by the way, this is a skill that recruiters tell us they really value. Even large companies will say that people that can write a good business plan, by definition, are very well-rounded. They're able to anticipate and position things and see how things relate to one another. And that's a very valuable skill. There's also a set of electives that you can choose from. Social entrepreneurship is very consistent with the Notre Dame spirit, so let me highlight that. Your family, your professors, your faith all say that it's important to help others in order to be a good person. And social entrepreneurship is about helping those that are less fortunate than us. It's a very popular elective. Family business strategy. I would imagine that a handful of you in this room, and certainly a lot of the Mendoza College of Business graduates, come from family business. Their parents, their grandparents own and operate a business. And it might be in your future to become a part of a family business. This class is about how to be as effective as you can be in a family business environment. Okay? So that's an overview of the first two, the department in general and our first two majors. Professor Rob Easley, the assistant chair in the Department of Management, specializes in information technology management, and he's going to talk to you about that concentration. Thank you.
First of all, can you hear me all right? Do you have any questions about those first two majors, first for Mike, before we switch gears? Okay, because you can always ask later. Just to sort of underscore the fact that I'm talking about technology, I didn't actually prepare any slides for you, okay? Because actually the PowerPoints, I'm sure you've had those since you were in grade school probably, and that's really not where technology's at these days, right? Technology's in your pocket, you're carrying it around in your, with your iPads or notebook computers. How many of you actually have smartphones? Right, okay, that's a good number. How many of you have Facebook accounts? That's like a no-brainer, right? Okay, how many of you have ever thought about the fact that while you're on Facebook, you're actually preparing for your career? You actually are developing skills. Yeah, what kind of things do you think? Uh-huh. Oh, well, sure. Yeah, how many of you are thinking about security issues? That's a good one. But One of the things that I would say, Professor Krant did a great job talking about the department as a whole and how management is broader than the other disciplines. I would go a little bit further with IT management in particular and say IT is at the heart of all of the disciplines, right? And it's actually at the heart of our personal lives anymore. You're probably all used to being consumers of technology. And one of the questions that I would have for you as you're thinking about a major is whether you really want to just be a consumer of technology or if you actually want to be a driver of technology development. Are you one of those people that when you're using your phone, you're thinking about, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this? Or going out and looking at all the new apps and trying them out and saying, hey, it would be great if we could tweak this way. Well, what I was saying about Facebook earlier is a lot of companies now, of course, are looking to mobile devices, are looking to social networks like Facebook as a way to reach consumers. And when they want to do that, they don't come out and try to hire professors as consultants to tell them how to go present themselves in Facebook, right? I don't even have a Facebook account. I had one for a while, and then the only friends I got were my students, like just 2 weeks before final exam. I'd get a lot of friend requests from my students, but anyway, I stopped doing the Facebook account. So who are they going to go after? They're going to go after new hires that really understand how social media work, that understand what it feels like to develop relationships there, to examine your commercial life there, to look at career opportunities there, all of that sort of thing, right? So a lot of companies are doing that. Some of them are even, would be surprising to you. They may be a manufacturing company, right? It has nothing to do with Facebook, but one of the things they need to do is to continue to hire people like you. So they need to continue to develop their social network, even if they are not what you would think of as an internet company. They might be, developing products. So there's a lot of demand out there for young people who grew up with technologies, who grew up with a comfort level with the way that technology is an enabler of reaching across country borders, reaching individuals all over the world, connecting with them. I'm sure you've all probably noticed how much things like Twitter played a huge role in the revolution in Egypt we all just witnessed, right? So these are all sort of unintended consequences to some extent of these technologies, and I think you're going to have a huge role to play in that. So regardless of what field you choose, you're going to end up working with IT, right? But some of you, if you have a particular interest in it, may want to develop greater depth in that area. And to sort of piggyback on where Professor Krant stopped there, the 3 courses you would take in IT specifically in the department would be, first of all, the one I teach, which is called Application Development. We actually cover Visual Basic programming within the Excel, as it sort of exists behind the Excel programming, Excel spreadsheet program. So you can learn in a comfortable environment and in a place, in a product that you will be using continuously in your career regardless. Okay, so we learn application development there, and then we have a networking and security class where you'll learn a lot about how to build web applications that are secure, for example, how to protect your privacy online, how the internet actually works, how are packets being sent for email, for movies, whatever it is that you're doing over the networks. And then the other one is system analysis and design, where you study the flow of information in corporations, the flow of processes, and you use those kind of maps and that understanding to develop methods of storing data and accessing that data productively. So those are the 3 core courses. In addition, everyone in the department takes the strategic IT course, which is a half-semester course that covers sort of the latest technologies that are being adopted by companies and how those would impact your careers. Career choices, there are really 2 main tracks that our IT management majors land in. One of them is consulting. The consulting is a very interesting choice from a lifestyle point of view. It's very popular with a lot of our graduates because you do a lot of travel, you do a lot of movement from company to company, It's a great way to gain exposure to how IT is used in a lot of different corporate settings. It's very typical that people leave the consulting career track, probably about 70 to 80% leave within 2 or 3 years. That's expected. It's not typically a long-term career choice, although some people stay in consulting their whole careers and make partner and sell major consulting engagements. But it's a great place to start your career if you like travel, if you like the excitement of going from city to city, company to company, and exploring. The other major track, as Professor Krant mentioned, you'll be very much seen as highly talented, good communicators. And so what typically happens is you're put on a fast track for leadership development. And every one of the major companies that hires our IT graduates has specific programs that are called things like IT Leadership Development Track. That's what they call it at GE and Abbott. Pharmaceuticals, manufacturers, Whirlpool has a similar thing. The financial firms have tracks like that. Any of you who are interested in finance may be interested to know that a lot of the banks are coming here recruiting specifically for IT because all the trading now is happening online, right? There's nothing that you can do in finance without using IT. So it's an interesting way. If you're interested in finance and IT, that's something you might want to look at, right? So in all of those cases, you're put on a leadership development track. What that means is for the first 2 or 3 years of your career, you're moved around from division to division, maybe 6 or 8 months in each division. And then after 2 or 3 years, you settle down into a leadership position in one of those. So those are the 2 main career options. The questions I typically get from people are around careers and courses. Do you have any other questions for us? There are some stereotypes. There is, I don't know if this is still out there. How many of you think that IT people are just going to be sitting in cubicles and coding? Okay, there's a few people thinking that. That's gone by the wayside quite a while ago. So that what typically happens nowadays is that the coding is done in offshore, in India or China, and what that has meant, even as that has meant many jobs in that area have been moving overseas, we've had an increase in demand in the United States for people with the skills to manage that workforce overseas while interfacing with the businesses here. And that's really the sweet spot that we're after in the IT management major. You have business skills, you have communication skills, you understand the IT, and that puts you in a really strong position to be able to manage that sort of a global development process. So that's kind of where we're at on that question. Are there any other questions? You pointing to one? Oh, sorry, thank you.
Do you have courses with IT management offer courses that allow you to develop like software or applications?
Yes, we do. I described the 3 core courses, but we also have electives. So right now there's an elective that's about building web applications. And then in the fall, for the first time, we'll be offering an elective on programming for mobile devices. So that'll be on how to write programs for Android devices.
And are those offered for people outside of the IT management?
We allow our sections to fill. So if you meet the prerequisites and there are seats available, we will let people in. But typically for those courses that I just described, you would need to have had some of the other courses. So we do occasionally have students that go through our curriculum that are also doing an accounting major or something like that, but it's pretty unusual. It can happen.
Do you have any courses specifically geared to public speaking, or is that kind of involved in the course we're talking about like persuasion?
That management communication course is both a writing and speaking course. And that one is one that the communication center developed specifically for the management department to cover both of those.
questions?
Before you leave, say something about the involvement that management students, and specifically some of your ITM students, have in Tusk and what Tusk is.
Oh.
This is really pretty cool.
Okay. When I became the assistant department chair in 2007, one of my responsibilities is to develop our schedule of classes for next year. So right now I'm working on what are the entire management department offerings going to be. And when I came in, that was all done with a paper process. We get a stack this thick, which printed out all of the courses that the way they were last year. The idea was you would go through and mark things out with red ink and write in it, and then send that over to the registrar and they key it in. It's a very, very inefficient process, and I refuse to have anything to do with it. So I got the registrar to send me the same document in a spreadsheet and started developing programs using the VBA language that I teach in my introductory class. And so for 2 years running, we had student teams that actually developed the program that was eventually used by this entire college to develop the course schedules for the following year. And it made it, just by, you can imagine the efficiencies just by putting all of this information in a spreadsheet. We were able to sort by times and things like that. It made room scheduling much easier. It made it much easier to track any errors that the registrar might make transcribing, things like that. But that was all driven by students in my classes doing projects. And it eventually caught, I mean, we had to get approval from the registrar, obviously, but now it served as a prototype for a web-based application that's being developed that's eventually going to roll out to the whole university. So it was a chance for our IT management students to have a direct impact on one of the processes that's fundamental to your lives, in the sense that hopefully we're developing better schedules for people that will meet your needs in a good way.
Mike, would you make a comment? You mentioned one of the opportunities was going on to graduate education after the management major. Talk a little bit about Emily Block this past. About Emily Block was passed as a graduate, and how she used her background and became a PhD.
We recently hired a Notre Dame undergraduate who is very, very good. So she, I don't remember what year, but it wasn't that long. It was 10 years, I think.
2004 or something?
Around 2000.
Yeah.
2000.
But so she was sitting in the seats you're in, figuratively, if not literally, and she knew back then she was interested in possibly considering being a college professor, and so she went and got a PhD, and we hired her back. And so one of her missions is to expose people to the career path that she took, because she's so happy with her life, and it's worked out so well for her. She's very enthusiastic about trying to expose her undergraduate students to considering maybe doing what she did and going back into academia and being a college professor. She teaches our Principles of Management class, so many of you can become business majors no matter which of the 4 departments if you have exposure to her. She's a very enthusiastic, bubbly personality, and she's a wonderful addition to our faculty. Anything else we can tell you?
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.